Hello and welcome to Warblog. This is the sort of finished it. I sort of haven't put the graphic on yet, but it's the Battle of Khafji, which was the first battle of the Gulf War. Yep. So the coalition forces are sort of carrying out their airstrikes on the Iraqi sort of air defences and things like that, and the Iraqis are sort of responding by trying to provoke the coalition into sort of a ground conflict that they would suffer casualties with, and they send Scud missiles into various parts of Saudi Arabia and also Israel and a few other things like that. They've taken quite a lot of damage, and they eventually decide to push forward and take out Khafji, which is down here, Khafji. Now, I haven't really got this 100%. As ever, but it's sort of close enough. One of the things that is sort of possibly very not quite right are these observation posts. Now, essentially, there are 8 observation posts. This is 8. This should be 7. This sort of should be about 6, and then you can do the maths. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then when I started to actually get into the fine detail of what happened, they start off with basically with some feigned actions against number 1. I thought, well, I either change the map, which I can't be bothered to do, or I just sort of change this from 6 to 4 and this one from 7 to 4 and 6 to 1. So it's all a bit squidgy here. There should be about, I'm not sure how many. Doesn't really say. It does say something. It tells you how far there are between. Yeah, the observation posts were positioned about every 20 kilometres. So that's wrong. So you just have to sort of accept that as something and be aware of it. So essentially, let me get my drawing tool out to just do some basic drawing here. They carry out some with these two little, with some mechanised units. They carry out sort of a little feigned attack against whatever is observation 1. They also do a similar sort of thing at around observation 4, and then they move the main bulk of their units. Now, historically, they do it in a very specific way, but the thing is, you're not going to really do it historically, and I don't want anyone to sort of try and force the historical narrative onto it. But basically, they have 3 divisions. They have the 1st division, which is mechanised. The 3rd division, the 5th division, which is also mechanised, and then the 3rd division, which is armoured. Now, they've got a lot of infantry, but they are ordered to stay sort of back here, and as such, they have movement factors of 0.1, which means they can't move. But you do have some. Some artillery, but that's also static, but it can fire. And so essentially, these units come down here. Now, the way they do it historically, there's not really a lot of point in trying to stick too much to that narrative because it was more driven by the sort of tactics of it. But they essentially use one of these as a screening force, like this, and then the other units sort of go in down the side. Now, these units basically run away, as well as these units and these units. Everything runs away, and then after the Iraqis have taken Khafji, they basically I would say regroup. They are then sort of develop a plan of action to retake it, and they do it with elements of these South African National Guard units, supported by other units. There are also a few other little intricacies, but the main thing sort of with this, the main thing with this is, we haven't got that yet, is that basically they use a lot of air power, and that destroys all the tanks. So I'm going to sort of lean towards the incomplete status, because there's so many units that are sort of specific to what actually happened. For example, there's the third US Marine that go into Khafji to rescue two logistic lorry crews that accidentally drove in. One sort of managed to get out, and the other one was basically shot at and captured. But they didn't know that, so they sent in some Marines who managed to get in there. They found, so you've got the Marine sort of a battalion available, but it was really only there because of that. And so basically, I think you've got enough units here to basically fall back, to regroup, and then to take an attack. So that's sort of, if you play it along those lines, you'll be roughly looking at the historic narrative, with the importance here of, let me just maybe use my little pen tool again, with the importance here of, say, falling back, then regrouping, and then attacking, but in the meantime attacking whatever is in here, interdicting it with air power. I've drawn an airplane, but so, and it's the air power that does the trick. So I'm going to jump a little bit into play mode. So we've got some artillery. So we can do here. Damage 1. Damage 2. Okay, now the thing to bear in mind is that this is the first spoiling attack. Now I've removed the barbed wire and the minefield, so you don't have to pay for going through that. It's a bit of a pain. I should really make it so that the people that laid them should be able to just go straight through them, but I haven't got that functionality yet. Anyway, so they come sort of straight through here. Now this is a feign action, and I thought I should have another one of these units. I don't know why there's. Okay, so this is really just a feign. So they take these, what are described as the high ground Al-Zaba, the high ground at Al-Zaba, and let's attack into there, which is a 1-to-1. So they shouldn't really have done so well, but they did. So they do retreat though. So there's been obviously some combat there, and for that I'm going to end the turn, and then we're going to withdraw this unit slightly behind this armoured screen. So this is what this armoured line was here for, giving that up, and then we're going to move on to the Iraqi turn. And for their next turn, so obviously the attention is sort of over here, and it's a bit hard to do that in war games like this. You can't really, the process of feigning a strike doesn't really cut a lot of mustard when you see the huge stacks over here. But a lot of it is the role play, and also we're going to attack with some artillery into there. I think 1.9. Do some more artillery. 1.7. So that puts them down to 3.6. We're going to move in there with the mechanised units against these special forces, and that's a DR. So that was good. So then they're down to 5.6, and they don't have any movement left. So that's the end of that turn. So now it's the coalition turn, or Saudi Arabian turn, and they've moved that back. They've moved that back. They're going to pretty much hold everything as it is because they still really don't know what's happening. I'm not saying this is taking minutes, but we're talking about maybe an hour at a time. So there's not much more for them to do because they actually retreated from there. I mean, to maybe make it a little more realistic. Well, I'm not. I'm just going to leave them there because I want them to recover. So the next move now is for all of these units to sort of do their thing. Now I can't remember who does what, so I am going to essentially push this screening force along here. Like that. So that's pushing a screen there. Now obviously then we haven't really gone that far, but the division will now essentially, well, we're not going to move into there because we're going to a lot of them in there. Okay, and then we've got the armoured units. How when you move? Yeah, because he's... And we're just going to park them all up in there. They were being moved when I was doing that. These weren't sort of refreshing. Sometimes it does that. I think I know what's happening actually. And this fifth can go down here. Some more fifth. So there's a lot of them, and we'll use the artillery down here. Did he recover? Probably. It's always not worth using artillery unless you actually want to follow through and keep the pressure up. So we've got one on them before, but this has no effect on point 2. Okay, so we're going to attack that. With everything, why not? DE, so it takes out that special operations unit, but the Iraqis can't move into the observation post. But we could probably move into this, attack this armoured unit as well. The DR. Okay. Okay, we've only got a few seconds left, and unfortunately I should really talk less and play more. I might do another 15 minutes after this just to get through to the sort of main bulk of what happens. So that's the 15 minutes anyway. I'll send it up now so it's few seconds short, and I'll speak to you in a bit. Okay, so we've done this sort of first advance where we're suggesting that the 5th Division is screening to the west, and as it happens the 1st Division is screening to the south and protecting the armoured division. They haven't got any troops and they've got some artillery support, and that's about it. So we're now moving into the I think it's pretty much everyone moved up, so we're now moving into the Saudi, the coalition turn. Now what they're actually going to do is move back. And I might be sort of maybe not as correct on this as I should be, but I think that's pretty much what they did. Okay, but what you'll see is we've got some air power, and this is sort of just the start of it. And so what we're really sort of experimenting on here is how much impact. I mean, this is just down to the game, game that we're playing here. And again, I'm doing them one at a time because it seems a little more effective. I just want to see how much damage I can do against these units as they come in. I mean, not a lot. Oh, look at that. Shot down. They did lose a plane, but it wasn't an A-10. It was the C-130.8. So it's not going very well. So what damage did we do on this little group here? 3.2, 0.2, 2.6, 1. Okay, so that's not brilliant, but we lost an airplane now. That was bad. So, but we've also got some artillery. We went for that little stack, so I think we should really do that one again. Now you'll notice that the artillery's got super range, 2.9 on that, giving it up to 5.5. Look at that stack. We should have done that one. Okay, because basically the whole crux of this, and that's why I wanted to do a second sort of video, the second 15-minute section of it, was that it was the air power that pretty much decimated all this hardware coming across the border, because they don't have much, and then by the time they'd done all that, done the damage that they'd done, they were in a position, and they did use specific units, but again it'd really be more up to you to which ones you want to use to take Khafji back. The Iraqis said that they experienced more air power in a couple of hours doing this assault than they'd experienced in the entire Iran-Iraq war. So that gives you an idea of what's what, and it was sort of described as sort of an archetypal example of how air power affects combat, because there's quite a lot of units here and they get blown to bits. It's also noted that some of the tanks and armaments that they used were fairly effective at defending against some of the ordnance that they were using, including sort of Milan rocket launchers and cluster bombs and things. But that's all sort of small tactical details. So moving on. Now, what this is doing, it's creating a screen. So I'm just going to sort of create the screen. just a sort of a token screen, really. Maybe there's too many units here. It does say that they've got a division, and one of the things I can't quite get my head around is how they structure divisions, because they're not like NATO divisions. Division has, I think in this case, 3 brigades in it, and the brigade doesn't have regiments in it. So NATO brigades have regiments in them, but these go down to the battalion level. So, but there does seem a lot for one thing. Although we've got, if we're not, I wonder if we've mixed up any of the first in there. I don't think we have. Yeah, there's some first there. Oh, look at that. Yeah, there's some first in there. Look, so I've messed that up a bit. And it doesn't matter too much. Let's see if we can get these. These all moved up. Okay, so we're into the city. Now, I'd have to maybe look at it again, but basically what happens is, after they get the city, one of these units goes back over the border. I would have to look it up to figure out which one it was, because I can't remember, but I think it was the armoured division. It goes back over the border. And I think it's possible that 2 of them do. This is one of those times when it would be quite nice if I had something to do group movement with, like a big fancy clever game, but I don't have that. It's not a problem, but it's not ideal when you're making videos and you want to do it quickly. I could pause it, I guess, but I'm really not so inclined. I just want to get the videos done, really. I'm not just doing them for the sake of doing them, but right, so what we've got there is obviously the screen. We've captured the city, we're protecting the armour, and that's pretty much what happened. They captured the place, and so we didn't use that. So we've got their reduced units now. Now they have, well, the thing is we can't do them all, but let's see what damage we can do there. Okay. Now I'm very close to putting in morale rules, and that would come really useful in here, because at the moment there's no morale rules. So this unit is on 6.3. Now because he is over 5, in theory he would be doing a morale check when he got hit. So because at the moment I'm not going to be able to attack, I'm not going to be able to hit anything after this one. In theory I should only be able to hit the first 3, but sometimes I seem to be able to hit the 4th one or something. But these ones I wouldn't be able to hit. But the thing is, in that case, if he had got that, he would have done a morale check. If he'd lost on a 10% or 10.3%, 13% chance, he would be retreated. He would have been removed, and then the stack would get smaller. And so in this situation, those morale rules will actually come in quite helpful, and I'm thinking of doing them pretty soon. But yeah, so that's that's how the morale should actually help in this sort of situation. Okay. Okay, so we've done a lot of damage. 8, 3.9, 3.1, 0.2, 5.5, 1, and 0. Now they would have. That's what I wanted to say. Because they're in a city, they would get a morale bonus. They get bonuses for leaders and bonuses for terrain and defensive features. So if they're dug in, they'll get bonuses, etc., etc. So it will go both ways, and I think it would work quite well because then you'll be seeking defensive terrain and defensive modifiers, and I think it'll bring the game to another dimension that it doesn't really have at the moment. I'm not so keen on morale, but I think it's sort of what I'm less keen on is swings and roundabouts really. What I'm less keen on is having units that are so knackered, but they just continue to stay there. What I really want to be able to do are things like just constantly bombard someone with artillery and then have actually an effect other than just sort of sitting there forever. So that's that. So that's that next turn. So now it's the Iraqi turn again. So they've pretty much achieved their objective. Now at the one stage they do capture some US troops in this engagement, and then so they're just going to sort of sit there. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pause actually because I want to maybe get this right. Well, I can't find anything that says they do retreat. Some battalions are sort of pushed back over the border during the initial fighting, but I can't see anything that says they do. So they're going to continue holding their position, which includes taking Khafji. So we'll end that turn. And now we've got a bit more air power. So let's see what damage we can do here. Okay. Okay, so that's 5.5, 5.3, 5, 1.4. So it all adds up. So, I mean, to be quite honest, that's a massive lot of damage, really. I mean, he's on 6.2, he's on 6.3. If the morale rules are in there, they'd all be retreating, so we'd have lost a lot in there and a lot in there. And it's, they can't really stand much more of that in the long run. But they've got some artillery as well, so let's fire the artillery over onto this armoured unit. There's only one hit, but let's see what it does. 0.6. Okay. So now, obviously, it would be very sort of what's the word? I mean, basically, obviously the Iraqis could maybe advance, but they're not because they're there to sort of hold that. And I think what they were also after is for the coalition to actually attack. Now we can assume that maybe the coalition retreat a little further back, maybe towards this artillery line here. Here's the Marines arriving, so we're not going to do anything with them. And I wonder why that's still green. I wonder if that's sort of the wrong way round. Okay, so we now got some more air power. Let's see what we can do against this little stack. Well, at least we didn't lose him. Actually down to 1.2. Well, do another one of these, and I'm not going to do any more. I think you sort of get the idea. Basically, the coalition sort of pounds the Iraqis with air power, then they move in with their units and basically cause a retreat. It takes 3 days for the whole thing. I might reduce the number of units just to make it a little more sensible, but that's pretty much that. There you go.